Alright, today we are going to cut right through all the noise, all the battlefield reports, and just look at the hard evidence. We're going to dig into a really detailed frontline analysis to figure out what is actually happening on the ground in Ukraine based on the latest verified intel. So, let's get straight to it.
You've probably seen headlines just like this one, right? They've been all over Russian media, painting this picture of these huge breakthroughs and Ukrainian defenses just collapsing. It's a really powerful story, for sure. But, a story is one thing. The reality on the ground, that can be something else entirely.
And that is the big question for today. We are going to put the headlines to one side and just focus on the map itself. We're going to look at where the lines of control have actually verifiably changed. We're moving past claims and speculation and into concrete, confirmed facts.
Now, the source for our explainer today plays by a very strict rule. The map only, and I mean only, changes when there is objective, usually visual, proof of a shift in territory. So that means no rumors, no secondhand reports, just confirmed data. It's this super disciplined approach that's so crucial for getting an accurate picture.
So here's our game plan. We'll start by clearing up the fog of war. Then we'll dive into that push on the southern front, take a look at the intense battle for Donbass, and ask if there's a stalemate in the north. And finally, we'll zoom all the way out to see the big picture.
Okay, let's start down on the southern front, in the Zaporizhzhia direction. Now, according to our source, this is where some of the most significant and, importantly, confirmed changes have happened recently. It's a real hot spot on the entire front line right now.
So this slide shows where the map has actually changed. Russian forces made a confirmed move near Primorskoye, which basically straightened out their line. The town of Pavlivka, yep, that's now fully under their control, and that was just confirmed yesterday. They've also managed to clear out a pocket of Ukrainian control between Pryluki and Dobropolya, and expanded their territory north of Syato-Petovka, taking a village called Alana Konstantinovka. These aren't just claims, these are tangible, verified gains.
But, and this is so important, other claims in the exact same area just don't hold up to the same scrutiny. While some reports, even from the Russian Ministry of Defense, claimed Novo-Yakovlevka and Novo-Boykovskoye were taken, our sources' trusted channels haven't been able to confirm it. Look, there might have been some incursions, but firm, verifiable control? Nope, not established. This really shows you the difference between an assault and an actual capture.
All right, next up, we're shifting our focus to the Donbass. We're looking at an area called the Dobropolya Salient. And this place has been a zone of incredibly intense fighting. And, no surprise, a ton of conflicting information coming from both sides.
Okay, this slide right here is a perfect example of why the little details matter so much. For a while, pro-Russian sources were claiming full control over both Shakove and Sofivka. At the same time, Ukrainian sources were claiming the opposite. Well, the verified reality is, a lot more complicated. Objective evidence confirms Russian forces control most of Shakove, but not all of it. And in Sofivka, they've only managed to get to the southeastern edge. This is a fight for streets, not a clean capture of a town.
So, what does this actually tell us? Well, first, the control is almost never absolute. It's usually partial, and it's always contested. And second, geography is everything. That confirmed Russian presence on the edge of Sofia-Vovka is a big deal, because it could potentially cut the town off from its main supply lines across the Kazanyani-Torets River. It just goes to show how these tiny, verified gains can have major tactical consequences.
All right, let's head north now. Up here, the story isn't so much about rapid advances. It's more about positional fighting and the slow, really painstaking process of confirming claims that have been around for a long time. Now, this is a really fascinating case study. For ages, pro-Russian maps showed this huge area near Krasny Laman as being under their control, but there was never any objective evidence. Well, now, that visual confirmation has finally come through, and so the map gets updated. This isn't a new advance, it's just the evidence finally catching up to a long-standing claim. It really highlights how parts of the map can be pretty misleading until that whole verification process is done.
Which brings us all the way back to that explosive headline we started with. We've looked at the verified data from the south all the way to the north. So, based on this careful, evidence-based mapping, what's the real situation around Izium? Is it falling?
Well, the answer is crystal clear. The closest confirmed Russian forward positions are still over 40 kilometers away from Izium. Yeah, there's pressure in that general direction, but the idea of the city falling, according to the map, that's extremely premature. The headline and the actual geography of the front line just don't match up.
So, let's zoom out for a second.
we've looked at all the individual fronts. What kind of larger patterns start to pop out? What does this meticulous, evidence-based approach tell us about the state of the conflict right this minute?
This table basically gives us a quick summary. The South is seeing confirmed, though pretty small, Russian advances. The Donbas is just a brutal, contested grind. Other areas, like Kupiansk, are kind of locked-in positional battles with no real movement. And those reports of a new offensive up in the Sumy region? Totally unverified for now. So, what we're seeing is a complex, varied picture, not one single sweeping offensive.
And this might actually reveal a strategy. The analyst behind this source has noticed a pattern. You see intense pressure in the north for a while, which draws Ukrainian resources, and then, bam, the focus shifts to a major push in the south, and then back again. This back-and-forth pressure could be a deliberate tactic to stretch Ukraine's defenses thin across a really, really long front line.
So here's the bottom line. We're in a war of information just as much as we're in a war for territory. And really, the only way to navigate it is by demanding evidence, by understanding that real control is messy and often partial, and by remembering that the distance between a headline and the actual front line can be very, very far indeed.